Welcome back to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we're Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. Thank you for joining us here on the podcast. Please remember to subscribe, rate us, write a comment, all the things. You can find me at Story Thursday on Instagram and Tasha 3.0 on Twitter.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram. Can I just tell you real quickly what my morning has been like? And I know we're
God.
Basically, we were supposed to record. And then someone came and the Wi-Fi got turned off outside. There was some issue. And he's been working. He's been trying to get the Wi-Fi back, whatever.
I think you're missing. We had an interview planned. Our interviewee he got sick. And so last minute, we had to change topics. And then your internet. Okay, continue.
And then my internet went down. So I'm like, Tasha, we're going to have to delay. I was like, you're waiting. You're on. Now I'm like messing up everyone's schedule. And now it's like the snowball effect is happening. I'm like, can you do this time? Can you now do this time? Then the technician comes over here. He basically says he has to go leave and find some splitter or something like that. And he's like, I'll be back. You're going to have X amount of time. And I was like, okay. So I message you. I'm like, I think we have our window of time. So I'm like rushing and I'm in the back of my house and I go to let myself in. My wife has locked me out of my freaking house and I'm now in the back with my computer and I was so thirsty, Tasha. And I have nothing back here except for alcoholic drinks in my refrigerator, in which I can't drink because it's in the morning. So what do I have right now? What am I drinking at 9:30 in the morning? A non-alcoholic beer.
Oh my God.
How far have I fallen? What am I saying? I don't even know what's happening. That's how thirsty I am. I've been outside with a technician for the last 2 hours. All right. So anyway, let's rock.
This is going to be an amazing episode. You're not going to care about anything I have to say right now because...
No, we've talked about this. So I've written stuff down as well. And I think it's a great topic. So I'm ready.
Okay, well, I have this week's in writings. Do we have time to do that? I feel like we're under the gun because some dude outside named Bob is going to cut off your internet.
His name's actually Jerry.
Jerry is going to cut off your internet. So if this podcast goes down, please know that Jerry was doing his job.
Yeah.
This week in writing.
Okay, I'm gonna start. I have to talk about Good Boy. I saw the movie.
Yeah.
And Joshua.
Yeah. May I just interject real quick?
Yeah.
I apparently left it off of Are You Excited last week? And by apparently, I mean, I definitely did. I thought it came out in September. This is a Mandela effect. I saw it in the iPic in September, which I guess is not a Mandela effect because
Maybe it's a special screening?
Yeah, I thought. Well, anyway. Okay, so Good Boy.
Good Boy. I'm sure you've heard of this movie, guys. It's in the point of view of a dog. It is a horror movie in the point of view of a dog named Indy, which is the name of my dog. It's like a reddish kind of retriever dog, I have a red retriever dog. And it's so in the point of view, by the way, Joshua, of a dog that you don't even see any of the actors' faces. Because the dog is low to the ground. And
the dog can't look up and see faces?
Dogs can't look up. Haven't you seen Hot Fuzz or whatever the fuck? Not Hot Fuzz.
What are you talking about? When they sit, they look up and get a treat. What are you talking about?
The dog doesn't see faces. He just sees the people that he loves and new people. No faces. It's all sort of darkened out. And it was written, acted by, directed by one guy. And I just want you all to go see this movie because never before has there been a movie from the point of view of a dog. And it is a very unique experience, it being a horror movie. Usually these movies are like Milo and Me. I don't know if that's the name of a dog movie, but Benji. These really sad, sort of epic journeys that are usually for families and kids and they make you cry and you learn about death for the first time. That's not what this is. This is a horror movie from the point of view of a dog who can clearly see ghosts when people can't, okay? And so that aside, I was so uncomfortable in this movie. I wanted to leave. I was angry at the filmmakers for doing this to this beautiful, innocent puppy dog. But the thing I want to talk about was, as the movie ended, I was like, there's no way I'm recommending this movie to anyone. Fuck this movie. It made me feel terrible things and I hate it. And then as people are walking out and as I'm feeling these things, anger mostly, this BTS footage starts, this like featurette with the director who looks very friendly, sitting next to his beautiful little dog who also looks very friendly. And he's like, hey, I'm so-and-so, and this is my dog, and this is really my dog in real life, and this is how we shot this movie. And he shot it over the course of 3 years with his wife, who is not a movie person at all. And she would just help him like get the dog Indy to do the things they needed to do and look the way they needed it to look in order to shoot this movie over the course of 3 years in their home. And so like they showed, for example, a scene where the dog is very, very scared, and it is very, very tense in the movie. And then it was like, but this is what really happened in the day of shooting. And it shows him like, hey Indy, over here. And he's like shaking a hat, and he's like doing goofy sounds in order to get the dog to turn in that direction. And then the dog parent in me was like, so okay.
It's movie magic essentially, right? So they're showing the behind the scenes of. What's really interesting is Dave Levinson,
Friend of the
podcast. He also saw Good Boy, and you asked if he had the behind the scenes stuff, and he said no. I almost wonder if they made the deliberate choice, like maybe there was some pushback, or there was something where people were so worked up about this. They're like, you need to put a behind the scenes.
I 1000% think so. That's my This Week in Writing. Like the marketing technique of that was so genius, because everyone then left the theater being like, oh, okay, like tension released. And now I feel like I want to go recommend this movie to people because it's not as scary for the dog as you think it is. And I'm no longer as angry. So that's just very interesting. Josh, is that when a child is in danger in movies, you get like physically ill and anxious and like angry at the movie for doing that?
I think, I definitely get anxious for sure. When I think, I was thinking about this because I couldn't pinpoint a child moment except for, I think it was Paranormal Activity 2. And it was when the baby was in the crib. And there was just always these like real creepy moments of like the baby looking at something, and it just makes me. But I kind of felt that way before having a child. I'm like, but I will say this also happens with maybe pets as well, or I don't. I'm just like, oh, come on. Like when the most pure-hearted, innocent person is about to be tortured, that's when I get a little anxious. I'm like, oh man. Was this kid gonna fall from the crib or like hurt himself, or is this dog gonna get locked outside? Like that's where I get a little worked up.
Yeah. Moving on. Josh and I submitted our spec. Josh, do you mind if I talk about it?
No, please.
Okay. So we submitted our spec because you guys are on this journey with us. I've actually had people who listen to the podcast be like, hey, how's your spec going? So you're following along on this journey with us. We submitted our spec. We got, which is a perfect kind of segue into our topic today. We got all of our reads from everyone. We were like, it's ready to be seen. So we pounding your non-alcoholic beer. We sent it to our agents and our managers. And I don't know, Josh, you and I think both of us were like, it's going to sell for $1 million. And then also the other half of us was like, they are going to fire us. They're going to let us go, and they're going to tell us what terrible writers we are and never want to speak to us again. So those two things I think existed in the same body for us. And the answer is somewhere in the middle now. We have a call set up with our reps, and we're going to talk about how they feel like, I got a little preview of what their thoughts are, and they feel like it needs a little bit more development. It was super fun read. They loved the writing. They loved the setup, blah, 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 blah. All the things they love, but they feel like a producer might have a point of view that can help develop it into something more specific, or there's just a feeling like it just needs that little extra zhuzhing. So instead of selling it to the market, we're going to try to probably go to a producer. We haven't had that conversation yet, but I think that's the path. So they don't hate it. They're not telling us to keep trying and we'll do the next one. They do want to push it forward. So we'll give you guys an update after we have that conversation.
It's so exhausting.
It's a lot because now we look forward and we're like, oh, more free work. Last This Week in Writing, before we get into our topic, we are working with a cause for entertainment, which supports and empowers research and education and people who are currently facing a breast cancer diagnosis. And so I wanted to talk about that for a second because if you want to, you can learn more about that organization at causeforentertainment.com. But Josh and I are doing something with them where we will be donating a 30-minute note session in their auction. So if you are out there and you have a script and you're like, is it good? Does it suck? What does Josh and Tasha think? And if you, as one of the steps we'll be talking about in our episode, feel like you need an extra set of eyes to look at your script before it's ready to go, head on over and bid on our one-on-one note session. And you can do that at charitybuzz.com/support/4615, which will take you directly to the Cause for Entertainment charity auction. And if you don't need any damn notes from Tasha and Josh, head over there anyways, because there are a lot of really prominent industry folks who are offering meetings with them. Or if you're an actor, or if you know any actors, are also doing auditions with casting directors, and it's all for charity. For example, one of the execs I know, Amy Rivera, is on there. She's a VP over at Paramount, and she's taking pitch meetings, y'all. So you could just go direct line to the VP of Paramount. And we would never, ever, ever suggest you ever pay for a pitch meeting. But in this case, don't feel guilty about it because that money is going to a really good cause, which is to help further research for breast cancer. So if you're at your computer right now and you want to type it in, charitybuzz.com/support/4615. If you're not, we're going to put this long ass link in our description and socials as well. So check it out.
Totally.
All right, today's topic, we are talking about how do you know when your script is ready? And I have a couple thoughts on steps you can take before you know it's ready.
Wait, let's pause. When you say when a script is ready, let's define what that means.
That's a good point. What I think it means is it's ready to go to your agents. It's ready to go out to a producer. It's ready to go out to a festival. It's ready to just go out into the world, no longer just on your desktop, on your computer. It is going out to be seen and potentially sold or lauded in some way.
Yes.
My first sort of step in how do you know your script is ready to go out into the world beyond your computer is to give it to your trusted circle of readers. So writers who have written tend to feel either one of two ways about their writing: that it is absolute and utter shit, and so are we, or it is the best thing known to man and humanity, will be just grateful to witness our genius. And I think a trusted circle of readers will correct you on both accounts.
Yes.
But mostly, I think they will gut check you and set you closer to reality, because even if it is good, it probably has issues that need solving because you are just one person with one brain, and usually one person with one brain can't see all of the holes in their own screenplay because we are juggling so many things to make a blank page actually function as a story that sometimes things can get missed. It's just how it goes. And so a trusted circle of readers can help you find those holes and to brainstorm solutions on how to fill some of those holes that they see. Mm-hmm. And a trusted circle of readers can also remind you that you are not a piece of shit, that your writing is actually cool and very interesting, and you shouldn't commit seppuku, but you should keep going. And sometimes that can even be more important than solving the holes in the script, in my opinion.
Perfect.
Josh, who are your trusted circle of readers when you're at that point?
It is Dave Levinson.
Friend of the podcast.
Yeah, it's Trent Johnson.
Not a friend of the podcast. He doesn't listen.
It's Steve Desmond. No, I'm just kidding. I just know that's your interest. No, it's our writers group. It's us. And if I expand out of our writers group, there's usually maybe 2 or 3 people that I would send to that I always know will come back with notes.
Are they other writers? Are they producer friends? Who are they?
Yeah, they're other writers. One is a producer, but former writer, still sometimes writer, but mainly a little bit more of a producer. They're all people who know how to give notes, which I think is very important in the process, because if you're getting just kind of these crazy notes that are trying to completely shift an entire story, where it's like, oh, I really liked your sports movie, but I think it should actually not be a sports movie, then you're like, that's the wrong person to give it to.
I 100% agree. And there are people that I know who are that. They are very smart story people, but they don't read your script and say, how can I help Josh better the script and the story that he wants to tell? They look at your script, let's say the creature horror father daughter in the forest script, they'd be like, this is great, but I think it would probably be better if it wasn't set in the forest and it was set in an abandoned school. And you're like, wow, that's not. And if it wasn't a father daughter, maybe it was a mother and a son, and you're like, that's a different relationship. I don't want to do that, but that would be better. So why the fuck, like, why wouldn't you do it if it makes it better? You're just like, this is not helpful. So those people I would weed out of your trusted circle of friends. We all have people like that. And what's interesting is your trusted circle can be a writer's group like it is for us, or if you don't have that at your disposal, sometimes it's your mom. And this can get very tricky because I do have a friend whose mom is like in the journalism field and she has a really good eye and she's really good at giving notes. And that is her first line of reader defense. And I am not that person. I'm very sorry, Mom. I love you. But I was forever damaged by the time I turned in a few chapters of a novel that I wrote when I was in middle school. And she had notes for me. And I was like, no, I can't do it. So it could be your writers group. It could be family members is the point. If you trust them, again, if you feel that they can think about story. Again, if you don't have a writers group and you're trying to look around you to see who could that circle of readers be. It could also be friends who you feel like have a really great opinion about story. It can be the thing that can be tough. And I think something that we don't realize as screenwriters is that for people who don't read scripts, it can be very hard for them to understand the format of script writing to the point that they can see past that and actually see to the story. So think about that when you're trying to build your circle of readers. Like, is it someone who's familiar with screenwriting and that process? I will say that as a kid, I remember I would send my novellas or short stories or whatever to Writer's Digest, which is basically, we have those options to us as screenwriters where it's just a company, a place that gives you coverage and gives you notes. So if you don't have personal people who you trust to be your circle of readers, there are places out there where you can get coverage and they can give you notes. That can be very helpful. I think let's all remember that when you get notes back, even when we get notes back from our writers group, Josh, some of those notes just aren't right. Or you don't have to take every note. So if you do send it to a coverage place, sometimes those people, that's just their opinion, man. Right? Yeah. But I think something we always talk about on this podcast, and when you're getting notes, go back to our episodes where we talk about receiving notes, that the notes, whether they're bad or not, will at least tell you where there is a problem. Like that terrible note giver who says you should put your thing in a school and make it a mother and son. They're reacting to something. Their solution is terrible and that's not correct. But for some reason, this father-daughter story in a forest isn't working for them. Try to get out at the reason why. So that to me is step one of figuring out if your script is ready, is send it to a trusted, emphasis on trusted group of people.
Yeah, I agree.
That's always our first step. And that's a step, by the way, that we do a lot along the way. So that's something to think about too. That can help you build your best script as well, if they're very, very trusted. Yep. The second piece of advice I would give if you're in this process of is my script ready or is it not, is to put your script down for a week, maybe 2, and then come back to it, because your brain will have worked on other things in that time. They will have thought about other worlds and not be so mired in the thoughts and the spaces of your script, so that when you go back to it, it is like reading it for the first time with fresh, new outsider eyes. And I think if your gut is still telling you after that week or 2 weeks, this is amazing, you fucking nailed this, then maybe you're ready. But I think for me, my gut is always like, ooh, this can be tweaked. Ooh, this is not as good as I thought it was.
Yeah. I just did this with the script that I had sent you guys to Writers Group. I was going to submit it to Writers Group. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take like a few weeks off from this because I needed just to like freshen it up and get the fresh eyes on it.
Yeah, it can be so helpful. It feels like you're a different person when you read it after taking a break. And then to me, I think like rinse and repeat that process as much as needed, because if you feel like something is wrong in that, week or 2 read, you fix those things, set it aside again, and then come back. Kind of do that until you're like, this is good. Like I'm just looking at typos at this point. Then you know that it's ready. The third thing I would say is reread your script with different hats on. And I don't do this enough, and I do think it is a really good idea. And what I mean by that is don't just read your script as yourself, as the person who wrote it, right? We get attached to things and we sometimes have blinders on as writers. Instead, reread your script with a producer's hat on. Is this producible? Can you see the trailer of this movie? Are there trailer moments? Are there trailer lines? Is the pace of the movie or the show going to appeal to a producer who is not a writer and they are reading this in between, their 50 other meetings and trying to take care of their kids? And I want to specify that I'm not saying you should sacrifice your vision or your writing to appeal to the lowest common denominator. What I'm saying is if you read with a producer's hat on, you may find places to tuck and to trim and to streamline that will make your script better that you didn't see when you just had your writer's hat on. I think also you can do the same process but read with an actor's hat on, right? Do all of the characters, even like the valet guy who shows up for one line, feel like someone would want to play? And I actually have never forgotten this story. Back when DVDs had commentaries, RIP, because basically that was like a masterclass in how to make movies when they had commentaries. It was so great. But back in those times, I listened to Bonnie Hunt's commentary on the Return to Me movie. Do you remember this movie?
I do not.
It's a rom-com starring David Duchovny and Minnie Driver, where David Duchovny's wife is killed in a car accident. And because she was a donor, her heart gets transplanted into Minnie Driver, who would have died without this transplant. And so Minnie Driver gets this like new lease on life, and David Duchovny is devastated by the loss of his wife. And of course they meet and they fall in love, and it's amazing until Duchovny finds out that Minnie Driver has his dead wife's heart, and that like threatens to tear them apart.
That is something.
It's so good. It feels like a dime store novel you'd pick out at the grocery store when you're waiting in line, but it's actually very, very good. And largely because Bonnie Hunt directed the hell out of it and the actors were great. But I will never forget in this commentary, Bonnie Hunt highlights a moment where David Duchovny arrives at the restaurant where Minnie Driver works, and this valet guy takes his car. And she says originally it was just Duchovny drops his car off, valet guy drives the car away. But it was very boring, and she wanted to give the valet guy, just the actor, just more to do. So she kind of used that moment, which otherwise would have been dead time that might have gotten cut, as a way to do a joke where the valet guy has this kind of like throwaway line, but he kind of says it with a little suave ness. And maybe you hear it, maybe you don't. That doesn't really matter. The joke was the valet guy gets in the car, and because Duchovny is so tall, this much shorter valet guy has to like move the seat, like really. So it's just like this long beat of him like moving the seat shorter and shorter, so he could drive the car. And the point is, like, she read that she's an actress. She read that with an actor's hat on and was like, how can I make this more fun for this actor?
So you know what's really interesting about that? I think about this often is that probably couldn't be written on the page, and it probably would be cut.
Yes.
If you had written that into the script, and you're like, well, what is the purpose of this? It's throwing off the entire flow of this scene in the script. So that's something that can only be done on set, while you're shooting. I think. I mean,
agree.
You can have these little moments, but you can still have your memorable characters.
Yeah, I totally agree. The last hat to put on might be a director's hat in this stage, right? Are you over directing parts of it? Are you under directing parts of it? Would a director be confused about how this basic scene functions at the, simplest level? Are you giving a director enough to sink their teeth into and to get excited by when they read the script? Because if you think about it, directors are the same as actors in that their agent just drops off 10 scripts to them that are like ODAs for them. We have OWAs, they have ODAs, and the cream rises to the top. Like, what's going to make your movie the one that they're going to want to direct? And if you just, again, don't want you to change things and change your vision for an imaginary director that may or may not get this movie, but it's at least a good exercise for you to just do a pass on with your director's hat on.
Yeah.
And finally, and this one is maybe just for me and the way that my brain works, but there are 1% of writers in the world who can write a script in a week and it's perfect and it gets greenlit and they sell it for $1 million. But I am not that person. And so for me, I like to reread my script multiple times, many, many, many times before I send it. I've gone to the point where I can send it to writer's group without having reread it.
Yeah.
But if I ever send it beyond writer's group, I am rereading it on final draft and then as a PDF and then as a PDF on my iPad because that feels different and I can notice new things and I'm making margin notes on my iPad. And then like the last stage is I print it out and I read it. I still do that. That's my very, very final step before submitting it to anyone because again, every single version of that, I see something different. And I think that's so key. And that's basically the same thing we're talking about with all these steps is you see something that you can adjust and it might be small. It might just changing a word here or there. And it can be very minute at this stage, but you're making it 1%, if not 10 to 20% better, somewhere in that range every time you reread it. And that to me feels very worth it.
I do that as well. I think we've talked about this before. I feel like I have to reread the script without asterisks, without any revisions, just on an iPad somewhere in like a different location, everything. It really does feel different.
A different location is a great idea.
Yeah.
We're weird, man. Writers are weird.
Yeah.
But that's it. Those would be my steps for what to do before you know your script is ready. I talked a lot. Josh, do you have any other steps that you go through before you know your script is ready?
I kind of wrote down some things where if you think you're like some signs if you're going to be sending it too early. And it's basically when things you've touched on, if you're rereading and you're finding like major issues that you need to change, because let's say you don't have the luxury of a writer's group or you haven't, you can't get the feedback that maybe some people can get from multiple people, but if you're reading through and you're like, okay, I'm making huge structural changes to this script, it's definitely not ready. I feel like if there are chunks in your script where you're hoping people will kind of figure it out without like that aspect of it, where you're kind of like, okay, this is a little blurred, but the reader will figure it out and put the pieces together.
Or maybe they won't notice.
Or maybe, that's another great one. Like, yeah, you know what? Maybe they won't notice. Someone's going to notice and it's going to be too early.
Those are great. That's a really great checklist.
You know what? One thing I did write down is if you can't pitch the log line or summary without stumbling through it. I feel like personally, I think that's really important. It doesn't have to be a clear, concise log line, but something where it's like, hey, what's your script about? Oh, it's about this, 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 and this. If you can do that, then you're good.
That's great. That's a really great tip. I like that one a lot.
And then, if I may, Tasha, for those who might freeze and don't want to send the script because they're afraid of what the feedback might be, if you're over revising and you're just kind of tinkering with like commas and dashes and you're not really fixing anything anymore and you're just kind of like looking at it and you're changing one word here or there, you're ready to go and you have to take the leap and have it read.
Yes. It's so hard, and we acknowledge that it's hard.
No,
because maybe it's not ready. Maybe all those thoughts in your head are like, but maybe it sucks. Maybe all those people were wrong. Maybe everyone's going to read it and think I'm a terrible, awful, hideous person.
Because there's different phases. This is why when we kind of clarified of like what it means to go out and have a script ready is like there's people who for the first time are sending their script to a manager or an agent or executive. And there's other people who have done it 1,000 times, right?
To that point, I don't think that anxiety ever goes away.
No.
Because it's something precious to you. It's something that came from yourself inside you. And of course, it's going to feel vulnerable and scary. So just know you're going to have to feel this way for the rest of your life.
It's amazing.
So that's it. Those are our steps for what to do before you know your script is ready. I think after that, it's really, like we're saying, it's out of your hands. You've done everything you can to ensure that it's good. Now it's up to the world to receive it and have their opinions, which they absolutely will. And I will tell you this, it will never be perfect. As Josh is saying, you will always wish you could have fixed that one thing. Actually, some friends of mine, a clip from the Mighty Nine went out into the world, and some friends of mine replied, and they're like, oh, it's great. I was like, really? Because all I can do is look at it and look at the things I would want to change. And it's done. There's no way I can. It's going to go out into the world like that. But all I can do is see things that I would want to make slightly better. And I think it will always bother you. And something I think about a lot when I get into that headspace is Herman Melville, as I want to do, who's the author of Moby Dick, which is one of the greatest books of all time. I love it so much. But he wrote to his friend in 1851, so way back in the day, someone has felt the same way we're feeling. And he said this about Moby Dick, which is well known to be one of the greatest novels ever written. He said that this whole book is but a draft. It is but the draft of a draft. Time, strength, cash, and patience. He said that's the reason why he sends these books out. If it wasn't for deadlines and needing to pay the bills and all of the other constraints that are put on writers, all of our writing would just be eternal drafts that we're constantly working on if we had our druthers. But they have to be done for us to make a living. And that is why we put it out into the world. So really, that's kind of the lesson to impart here, I think, is if you do all of these steps, you will have set yourself up for the absolute most success possible in terms of readiness. But there is no like perfect golden script that is magically ready. That's just how this business works. And in some ways, that's the high of Hollywood, right? Is hoping someone reads it and loves it. And you've given it your best shot, and that's all you can really, really do. That is our episode. So I'm going to go right into our quote of the day. It is better to fail in originality than to succeed in imitation. Herman Melville. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.